I can't see. I need my glasses.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning from what clearly is not any sort of hairdresser.
Yeah, it's 7:30 here. We're caffeinated, barely.
We are caffeinated.
Yeah.
We're very, very caffeinated. Anyway, as per usual, on our live streams, it seems like we've been ages since we've done a live stream.
It has
If
been
you
ages.
if you are able to hear us and see us, let us know. Let us know. Teresa was saying there's only 9 people here.
It's 10 now.
10. Well, maybe they're waiting for some sort of notification.
It's going to be like a intimate soiree.
A soiree. Well, Stephen there. We have a Stephen. We have a little clap from
Yeah,
Stephen.
there's a little chat function if you're watching. So
Yes.
hello.
Oh, yeah. Hello, Peter.
So if you're watching in YouTube, then you'll be able to see the chat function. If you're streaming from like the Patreon app or the like desktop version or whatever, then you won't be able to chat. So
Anyway, what is going on with my hair?
this is what I've been trying to tell you.
What is?
Like literally, I've been trying to talk to you about how mad your hair is.
Okay, listen.
Nick looks like the guy that used to be like head of Ferrari. What's his name? Like, what was his
I need to go and get a hat.
Benito.
Not Benito. But anyway, doesn't matter.
Anyway.
So listen. Doug's there and David is there. Hello, Doug. So.
And
Doug.
2212 D.
Doug Bell.
Oh, okay.
Doug Bell. So we know these. And Peter is there.
You've got a good memory.
I have got a very good. And David, who has. I think David's boat has just been launched. So, and Mark from Seattle. So, yes, we have.
No. That was a different David.
Is it a different David?
David Gravelin's boat.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So, anyway, welcome to what probably is the last days of our time here in Thailand. We have been here since August. It is now April. So, it has been an incredible journey, metaphorically and literally. So we are at the end of this big 1,500-mile trip that we did from Pattaya. How do I pronounce it? Pattaya.
I think the Thais pronounce it Pattaya.
Pattaya.
Yeah.
To Phuket. There are a lot of episodes coming. However, one thing that I would say, because we have been getting a lot of questions about this from prospective Seawind owners who are on the fence about whether or not to take delivery in Thailand and then spend a season in Thailand before shipping from Phuket. As biased as I may be on this, I would say 100% you should do this. You should. I kind of think that if you look at a chart or a map of the Gulf of Thailand, Pattaya is at the very, very north. It's right inside the Gulf. And if you spend the season around there and then intend to go to Phuket, I think you see every single inch of the Thai coastline. There's not a lot you don't see. You go down to the Koh Chang archipelago on your way to Phuket. You go and see Samui or Tao. It's been amazing. It has been absolutely amazing. No?
Yeah, it's been fantastic. If you guys have any questions about that trip or in fact about anything, then just pop them in the chat box.
The other thing is to be aware is that, as you know, and as we were expecting, and as you are all expecting, if you have boats on order, there are invariably problems that will occur with warranties and other little bits. And just again, another permanent, and Phil Harper doesn't pay us to say this, another shout out to Phil Harper for just being just getting stuff done without complaining about it. His attitude is simply, I will get stuff done and then sort out the bureaucracy afterwards. And I think that has been his motto since we started, which means that we got away with a working water maker, which I think the water maker got fixed 10 minutes before we dropped the lines, right?
Yeah, well, literally, we said to Phil, well, we're leaving at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, and he turned up at 7. He was like, wait for me, and he turned up at 7, and it was like, had a part, I can't remember what it was now, and he's like, let me fit this and see if it works. And
I am just going to message the WhatsApp group to say that we're live, okay? So, yeah, so let's just carry on, eh?
All right, then.
Hey.
We've got some questions also. Welcome, Stephen. YouTube frozen the Patreon feed working. Oh, that's interesting. Is anyone else in YouTube and having problems? Let us know. I don't think there's anything we can do about it. That's so strange. there might be quite a few of you watching in Patreon actually as well. But as I said, I won't be able to see any questions or comments from the Patreon side, so just be aware of that.
Okay, well, yeah, we've got a lot of people saying that they can't get us. Anyway, we there's not a lot
of people saying what?
They can't get us on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
It's frozen.
It's frozen.
All right, so anyway, we'll get it. Okay, refresh YouTube and it's fine.
YouTube was behind about 30 seconds. Refresh YouTube and it's okay now. Okay.
Refresh your YouTube.
Works for me on YouTube. Okay.
Anyway, so basically it has been great, hasn't it?
It's been an amazing. I mean, I'm glad we got the water maker fixed because there's not many places to either refuel or get fresh water between Pattaya and Langkawi. So I'm very glad that we didn't have to rely on that.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, ask any questions that you guys have. And we do have some questions from that people have already asked that maybe can't make it. So Darren wanted to get an update on the mainsail track and cars. Has that been sorted? So you haven't seen this in an episode, and I can't remember. I think that we did mention it like in real time. So that was a couple of weeks ago. So Nick, did you want to talk about what happened with that?
So basically, catamaran masts, for those of you who don't know, and for those of you who do know, apologies, it's repetition. They have a lot of bend in them. They have to be bent. So that essentially means that the mainsail track, so the track that makes the mast go up and down, that actually the battens hang on to, has to be screwed on afterwards. So it's not integrated like a monohull. Like on Ruby Rose, the mainsail track was actually inside. Anyway, to cut a long story short, one of the screws, in fact, a lot of the screws backed out. They just backed out of the track. So where the track was screwed to the mast, they backed out, and one of them backed out enough to foul one of the battens. It was a simple question of going up the mast and retightening them. Okay.
Once we finally got the main down and then we're in a marina, it was a simple question.
Yeah, so the whole thing.
But at the time, obviously, we had a main.
Yeah, we had a main up the mast. It's 1 o'clock in the morning and the bloody main won't come down, it's just like, for crying out loud. But nonetheless, let me just run through this with you. So firstly, why? Why did it happen? Well, it happens because screws back out of everything. They back out of everything. Could it have been avoided? Yes, thread lock would have avoided it, and there was no thread lock to the best that I could see on those screws. It needed thread lock. I have pointed this out to Seawind, and they will now thread lock stuff. Was any damage done? No. Well, to one of the boxes on the mainsail, which essentially mainsail's up. We're in an anchorage. It's 1 in the morning. We have 2 options: get the mainsail down, or get the mainsail down. And that essentially meant for us that, well, even if I have to go up the mast and cut it down, it's getting cut down. We can't leave a mainsail up. So we went up the mast. Well, no, we didn't get the mast. We kind of hold on it. Eventually we're like, okay, well, what are our options? Option 1 was to keep hauling on it, like to haul it like mad by hand. Option 2 would have been just to stick the reefing line on, and that would have got the mainsail down, but it may have damaged it.
Well, we actually tried that and it wasn't coming down, and we didn't want to
stress it. Yeah, so basically, anyway, eventually a batten box just gave way and the whole thing came down. Yeah. And great. We haven't used the mainsail since. We haven't, because we haven't needed to.
Yeah.
We had no wind for the last 100 miles, which was great, but nonetheless.
So another question that was already posted on the Patreon page was how I think we've actually addressed this. How well protected are the helms in bad weather when you've got wind kind of, well, I guess on the windward side? And when it's very windy and the weather is not great and we still want to be sat on the windward side or it's raining, then we do have side clears that we can use, and we do use. So in that sense, once the side clears are down, it's perfectly well protected. Everything okay?
I'm just responding to the patrons about.
Okay, I didn't know what you were doing. As far as I can tell, you just sat on your phone.
No.
Okay. The helms are really well protected, and as I said, once you've got the side clears down, then they're fine. So yeah, they're very comfortable as well.
Yeah, I think the side clears are a necessity. I personally would alter the design of those side clears a little bit. I think that they are a little bit on the clunky side, and I'm not saying we won't get them remade at some point, but I kind of the side clears are they are necessities, right? Absolutely, you need them. You do need them, and I kind of think that the other thing is it gives you probably a false sense, but nonetheless a sense of protection at night. I think that they all pop down, so they're all kind of like there's a bolt rope at the top, and then at the bottom there's a series of poppers that go on. But it does give you some sort of like it gives you complete it gives you environmental protection from rain, and it also gives you a physical barrier. And the other point is, and I think this is quite clever, and I'm not sure whether it was an intentional design by Seawind or just accidental engineering. There is a part of the side clear, a small part about maybe a foot by a foot, which actually zips up. And that is meant to allow you access to the winch or to get the lines into the winch. And that little part then clips up and pops up. But that's a bit like a dog door. Like you can stick your head through. Yeah, you can stick your head through there and look down the side, the coamings. Because I kind of think that we've done a lot of night sailing in this boat now. I think that in our 21-day trip, we did 7-8 nights.
Yeah.
And so we're very versed in night sailing this boat. And what I would say to you is that for those of you doing the trip, or again, for those of you who want to sail Asia and end up night sailing, which I guess is just going to be, mostly Seawind owners, night sailing is not difficult. It is not a difficult thing to do. What I would say to you is that the number of fishing boats, and specifically squid fishing boats at sea while you are night sailing, means that you can't miss these boats. You can't. They are literally lit up like Christmas trees, big green lights. So you can't miss them. They also, because there's so many of them, sometimes it's like daylight, isn't it?
Oh, it's mental. Yeah.
So it's not difficult to night sail. And in Thai waters, and this is an interesting demarcation, in Thai waters, I believe there must be some sort of law or rule that means that all Thai fishing boats have to carry AIS. It doesn't happen in Malaysia. As soon as we got into Malaysian waters, none of the boats had AIS, and they all did in Thailand. So they've all got AIS. The radar works really well. And one final thing I would say to you is, if you are sailing around here and specifying your own boat, you need rope cutters. You do. You have to have a set.
I mean, we actually got away without any. Did we get any? Oh, we did. We got rope around the prop once, and then we just turned the engine off because we were underway. And when we dived on it later, like a day later, it was gone. So,
but I mean, we had rope cutters on Ruby Rose, and I honestly, having seen the damage that a rope can do, and it's actually not just ropes, it's fishing nets and like those rubble sacks. They can cause a crazy amount of damage. We heard something from someone here who didn't have a rope cutter on, got something caught around the prop and actually bent the drive leg. The amount of torque that these engines have, you can do a crazy amount of damage in it. So yeah, please, if you are specifying a boat, not just for here, because we picked up ropes off the coast of Morocco, of Portugal, fishing nets. You need rope cutters.
Okay, so let's answer some more questions. So Stephen says, are you in Phuket now? Yes, we are in Phuket. We arrived into Phuket maybe
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago?
Yep.
Maybe a bit more than that now, actually. And we spent a few nights in the marina because we just had a lot of work to do and we needed to have good access to electricity and water. And then my father came and visited. So he was staying on Phuket, and then we just kind of catch up with him like for dinners and whatever. And then he moved on board for a few days, and we went to Koh Hong, which is nearby, and we went to Koh Yao, which is also nearby, and just took him on like a little mini cruise. And then when it came time to come back to Phuket, we were like, actually, we're quite happy where we are. So we've just spent the last 8 days, I think, at anchor, just off an island about 10 miles away. And that was just amazing.
It was.
So
look,
nice.
It was. Look, what I would say to you again, we went from Pattaya to to here in about 3.5 weeks.
Yeah.
We could have taken 6-7 weeks to do it.
Yeah,
And
we really rushed.
I really would say that the 1,500-mile trip, there are places that I would have loved to have stopped at for longer. I think it's all subjective. I think we talked to hulls 4 and 5 about it, and they had a different view of it. I thought Malaysia was an amazing place to sail through.
Yeah.
I found the Malaysians, I think we found the Malaysians to be ridiculously friendly, very accommodating. And so we had a really great experience. I kind of would have liked to have spent a little bit more time around the Koh Chang archipelago. I think that our shipping has been delayed now by 2 to 3 weeks, and if we had known this, we would have probably slowed down. But that's the way it is. You can't help these things.
No.
And so that's where we are. Any other questions?
Yeah. So David says, has your anchor confidence improved? Are you still using the mantis hook? No, we're not using the mantis hook. We don't have a mantis hook. Oh, the hook. Sorry. Yes, we are. What? No, we can't actually say what we're using.
So, Mantis have sent us their new hook, which we're not allowed to show because it hasn't been released yet. And that it works very well as a hook, but it binds coming back into the anchor box because it's a long kind of thing. It looks a bit like one of those clips that you seal plastic bags with, only in stainless. I kind of think that my take on it is that when the anchor beds in, it beds in. And this is my take on the anchor. I believe that it is undersized for our boat. That's my take on it. That is, and I'm going to explain why rather than just coming, saying, this is what it is. We have 257 horsepower engines right now. If I have 10 times scope out, so whatever that is, we've got 90 meters of chain. So in 6 meters of water, I can get up 70 meters, and I've got 10 times scope. I can still dislodge the anchor with many types of bottom condition by reversing hard, and that essentially means the anchor, I believe, is too small. While it will dig in, and we've had this a few times, we will literally put the anchor down. We will reverse slowly until it bites. So everything done very, very slowly. Reverse slowly until it bites. Reverse a little bit harder until it is bedded in, and you can feel the kind of like the slew of the boat as it kind of moves around the chain. Then if you reverse hard, you drag. You literally, it comes back. And we've done this before. We anchored in a river just before the Singapore Strait and had exactly this issue. We anchored hard and the boat just went backwards at 2 knots.
It was like a muddy, very muddy bottom, but probably quite soft.
But when we pull the anchor up to reset it, that literally the entire anchor is caked in thick mud with bits of shell. So you can see what the bottom is. And really, at that point, I'm like, well, I understand that we have a lot more horsepower than we had with Ruby Rose, but I shouldn't be able to break my anchor out with 10 times scope by reversing. I shouldn't. It should, and to me that means that the anchor is too small. You have to go through everything within the ground tackle, everything to do with where the problem could arise.
And it depends on the bottom itself. Like we've anchored, for example, just where we were the last week, and it was a sandy bottom, and honestly, like it was we couldn't. We had to break out the anchor to leave. Like we were so well bedded.
So there's definitely one component which is the bottom. But what I would say to you is that a big anchor, like we on Ruby Rose, we had an oversized anchor. We had an oversized Mantis, and I remember being in Marsh Harbour and actually diving on the anchor, and that thing just would not shift. And that wasn't sand, that was mud. So we had sailed and anchored in many, many, many different conditions over many, many years. We have never dragged anchor. I don't believe, and some people are like, we have 8mm G70 chain on the boat, so it's lighter. But actually what that is doing, if you've got like 10 times scope out rather than 6, and we have completely increased the scope to way above what we should do now. So we're minimum 8 times scope, which essentially we've got 90 meters of chain, gives us the equivalent of being able to anchor in about 8 to 10 meters tops. But I kind of believe that the anchor is underspecified for the boat, and I kind of think that I think we're on a 35 kilo anchor.
Yeah, and look, you know, we obviously took Seawind's advice on that. Like they said, this is the anchor for this boat. So,
and all I would say at this point is, this is my current working theory. I'm not like this is exactly what the problem is, but I would expect an anchor to. I would expect me to not be able to break an anchor out by reversing it with 9 times scope out in a mud bottom.
Yeah.
Maybe if it was seagrass, definitely not sand. But yeah, I kind of think that that's my latest take, that the anchor is too small for the boat, and she carries so much windage. But windage aside, 257 horsepower engines should not be able to break an anchor out by reversing it with 9 to 10 times.
Yeah, and it wasn't just that one. Like we've had this quite a few times where we've anchored, we've been sure that we've dug in, we can tell, and yet when we go, like we put the bridle on, and then when we go to reverse hard, then we're not holding. Yeah. So yeah, I think, I don't know, as Nick said, we're just working on a few different theories at the moment, but we've actually anchoring has actually been totally fine since we left Pattaya. Like we've anchored loads and we haven't had any incidents. So
what I would say to you is, and I kind of, this is the bottom line, and since we have left Pattaya, we have anchored, as Terysa says, like multiple times, but we have never had sustained winds over 20. No. And there's the issue.
Yeah.
When we were off Panyang, we were getting 20, 30 knots of wind, blow it gusting up to 40. I still don't have confidence in the anchor holding in 40 knots.
No.
And I need it to have anchor. And so,
especially in Greece.
So we're talking to, so I think we're going to try and, we are going to get the anchor swapped out.
Yeah.
It's
and on that subject, other than carrying, Stephen says, other than carrying the weight, are there any other disadvantages to having an oversized anchor? I can't think of a good reason to not just go big and rest easy.
Well, I mean, there is a point where it has to fit inside the anchor, the box, and there is a discussion. You know, we've been pretty flat out for the last 2 months, and I kind of think that today, tomorrow, the day after, we are in a position where we are going to have we've got to pack this boat up for shipping, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But again, once we're off the boat, I will be talking about getting a new anchor sent to Turkey. We desperately need to get a new anchor sent.
But no, there's no other disadvantages to an oversized anchor as long as it fits into the anchor box.
Yeah, as long as it fits in. Yeah, go one size. And I've always said this: go one size bigger. I think we probably
should have done that to begin with. But I mean, you know,
it wasn't our decision.
And well, no, we trusted Seawind's advice, and I think that we need to emphasize that it's entirely possible that this anchor size is correct for this boat, but we're just kind of specking and over engineering everything so that we can remove one possibility at a time, because the fact is that whatever is wrong, you know, we still don't have confidence in the anchor or the anchor setup or whatever. And there's been a few different issues on that whole kind of in that whole situation, like from the hook to the anchor itself to whatever, to the chain maybe, we don't know. So we're just kind of...
I don't think it's the chain, because in all fairness, I would happily, with an oversized anchor, just go all road, which has no weight to it. Clearly, if you've got, I think G70 saves about 2 kilos per meter. So you are saving a couple of 100 kilos of weight in your anchor locker when you're sailing along. But the flip side to that is that you are also not putting a couple of 100 more kilos of weight onto the seabed when you're anchoring. And that does have an effect of holding the anchor down. But ultimately,
it's the anchor itself. So
and so basically, if we can reverse with 70, 80 meters out and break the anchor out, the chain is not on the seabed anyway. Exactly. So it's not a function of the chain. It is a function of the anchor size. So our latest best guess is that the anchor is undersized for the boat.
So we're going to swap that out once we get to Turkey.
Yeah, so that's that.
Because in Greece over summer, we will be getting very gusty conditions, and there is no way that we're spending the summer like on anchor watch every time the Meltemi blows up. Although we probably will anyway. But anyway, okay, let's move on. So a couple of questions about the davits. So David and also Randy have asked about the davits. Brooke has also asked a question, but I'll come back to that in a minute. So new davits.
Love them. Okay, so firstly, I really like the new davits. I do. I think that they are a much better design. They are a better design. A couple of reasons why. Firstly, they sit very snugly. The dinghy sits very snugly inside the davits when the boat is hoisted. Now, let me explain to everyone. There's obviously some 1370 owners that have got the old davits and therefore know exactly what I'm talking about. But I will, for those who don't have 1370s, the previous davits were carbon fiber poles. Now, they kind of came out the back of the boat at an angle, so that they kind of like, as they came out, they actually went up a little bit. And underneath the davits were rubber mats to kind of hold the dinghy in it secure. Now, Seawind said that these rubber mats or these rubber pads weren't necessary because they didn't have them on the 1600, and we found that actually the rubber pads just got shredded. So they redesigned the whole davit system. So firstly, now they come out and they're completely perpendicular to the water. So they are completely flat, which actually gives you a really good surface to kind of stand on, and they are very strong. The second thing is that the davits, as you lift the dinghy up, there are fiberglass kind of shapes that actually hold the tubes, and we have found those to be very secure, and there is not a lot of yawing going back and forth. So when the dinghy is stowed, I think that the davits are far superior. The only thing I do not like about them, and I've said this to Seawind, is that they are on a 6-to-1 purchase. And that is a bastard of a system, because 6-to-1 purchase is meant to allow you to raise the dinghy by hand so that you haven't got to use a power winch. Unfortunately, we have a heavy dinghy, and 6-to-1 purchase is not enough to raise the stern of the dinghy effectively. It still has to be used around a power winch. Now, the problem with a 6-to-1 purchase is that there is a lot of string in those pulleys, and it invariably tends to get, the actual line gets twisted. And it causes and has caused all sorts of problems raising the dinghy. Personally, I would move to a 4-to-1 purchase and just use the power winches and understand that's what you've got to use. So we have had some issues with the 4-to-1 system. The other thing, the 6-to-1 system, the other thing that we have is that, and we found this over the last couple of weeks, that the wind blows up about 5:30 p.m. or 5 p.m. and carries on till 10 p.m. So there's a lot of chop and swell when we're trying to drop or raise the dinghy. And actually, we've damaged the transom because you can't pull the davits up fast enough to get them clear of where the dinghy, the metal part of the rib, the floor, actually knocks against the transom. I know we're meant to have rubber protectors, but there's a bit above that doesn't have rubber protection. And the dinghy just kind of does this. It yaws really badly. And
you can't like get up.
You can't get up fast enough.
Yeah.
So we have got lines on port and starboard to try and secure it, but there is a question as to how quickly you can raise this. And I have found that especially on the port side davit, which is the one which actually has the engine on it, the line twists, and as you raise it, you have to kind of untwist the line. But overall, I think that they're a massive improvement. They are a huge improvement. I think they look better as well.
Oh, they do. They look a lot better.
Sorry,
we both had chest
infection. So the new davits are far superior. I do like them. They also bring the dinghy up higher.
Yeah.
So yeah, very happy with the new davits. Better design. Probably should go to a 4-to-1 purchase. And one thing that it does allow is it allows you to drop one end of the davit to drain the dinghy, which is an absolute bloody necessity.
Yeah, something we'll be doing later.
I've already done it.
Oh.
I already pulled the drain plug out. Yes, very happy with the new davits.
Okay, so Brooke has asked, do you think that the anchor, we'll go back to the anchor, was sized for the weight, carbon, and not windage?
for the weight of the boat, I kind of think that there is definitely a like a discrepancy between the kind of theoretical data and the actual, what you're getting. I kind of think that clearly when they specified the anchor for this boat, James had no idea what was going on with the windage. It's a theoretical windage, but he did have the weight of the boat, so he probably went to the anchor manufacturer and said, well, this boat is going to weigh X, we need an anchor for X, and they said, well, you can have this is what we suggest. I am suggesting that, as Brooke, you're completely correct, that the windage that this boat carries is very high, and once you get to about 25-30 knots of wind, you are putting an insane amount of load on the boat. The windage it carries is huge, and it's the same for any catamaran. So we need a bigger anchor. That's it.
So there was a question from Brad, who left a comment on our post on Patreon, asking whether, we've had this boat for 8-10 months. Now you've lived with the boat for a while. Are you still happy with the design? So, for example, access to maintenance items, stairs, stowing the door, access to the coach roof. Has anything come to light that doesn't work as expected, i.e., like it works on paper but not in real life? Any little design issues? A lot of the...
It's a really good question, actually. And while you answer, I'm going to think about it and then come back to my answer.
I need to think about it as well. You'd think that would, like, the answer would spring to mind immediately, because it's the kind of thing that we are constantly looking at. But a lot of the issues that we've had, we've addressed with Seawind. So, for example, the davits is probably the best and biggest example. Like that works in theory, not so well in practice. So, that's been redesigned, and we've had the new davits fitted. And I think that hulls like 1 to 5, I think, that didn't have the new davits, they have the option for retrofitting them. And there are certainly some like storage items, like as in kind of the way that they've designed some of the storage, in particularly the galley and then in some of the cupboards downstairs, where they have done it in one way for us and probably hull 1, and then they've kind of tweaked and perfected that over the course of the subsequent hulls, and especially with owners kind of going into the factory and looking at it and saying, you know what, this isn't what I want something else, and then they're redesigning, for example, the cupboards or the drawers or whatever, and saying, this actually works better. So I think that in terms of our storage in the galley, for example,
I think you're just talking about that one pull-out drawer, aren't you?
So the pull-out drawer in the hull, I think that is not a good design, and they've changed that for subsequent hulls. That's our like little pantry. But I'm also talking about like the storage in the these cupboards in the galley. So just little things like that. I would say that they're not big deals. It's not a big deal to us. It's fine. But they've tweaked little design features like that.
I'm not going to be contrarian. Kind of like, I just personally, I think that we all have little things that annoy us. The storage doesn't annoy me at all here. It doesn't. I don't find the galley storage to be annoying. I also, and I'm not just being contrary, I don't find that the 3-drawer versus the 1-drawer as the pull-out pantry is an issue for me at all. It just means I have to bend my knees a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's a problem. I'm just saying that there's been improvements there. And
there's been tweaks. Yeah. I think that Terysa's completely correct. There have been owners that have come through and said, I don't like this, I don't want this. There's a whole kind of sink gate thing going on about what sink you should have, where you should have a double sink or a single sink or a big sink, and I'm not getting involved in that. Like, literally, we have a double sink. We've always had a double sink, and we understand why we want a double sink, for water saving and for being able to rinse plates, but we also understand completely that people sometimes just want a big sink. So look, regarding all the design features of this boat, I kind of think, as Terysa's been talking, there is nothing on this boat that I kind of think this just doesn't work, or even this could be improved. I think it's all right.
I think the question about access to the coach roof was something that I was always a bit like iffy about, because they originally had that silly little upstand, which
the spike of death,
which we don't have. We've just got like a rail to hold on to. And then they've got steps, but the steps don't really, unless you're at anchor and the boat's completely stationary, the steps are a little bit pointless. But what does work well is at the mast, you've got these little like fold out mast steps. And you've also got the shroud so you can hold on to. So if you want to get up onto the coach roof, then going up where the mast is the best, safest option, and it's very easy.
I mean, what I would say is that we have been up that mast. I've been onto that coach roof, and it tends to always be at the same point. And the point is when you're trying to drop the main, because the main does not drop 100% all the way down. So it has to be hauled down the last maybe 2 or 3 meters. So we've been up there, and I have been up there in various sea states. It is not a place that I would suggest you are up, unless you really need to be. It's not good. It's not good safety to be up there. And so I still stand by the fact that the putting handles rather than a spike is it was a good idea. So that is we kind of like push back against that. So just put a handle in there so that you haven't got something where you can fall onto. And I get where they're coming from with that. And I'm not sure what the current thing is now.
I think one thing that was mentioned, because we've just spent a bit of time with Phil Copeland, who's hull number 5.
Yeah.
And Chris, who I can't remember.
Kabura.
Yeah, but no, he's also waiting for his 1370 to be built, but I can't remember when his is due. Anyway, they've been sailing around here. We met up with them a couple of nights ago. And one thing that Chris and his partner said was that they have been staying in the starboard hull in the forward cabin, which is where we put my father. But my father, being my father, would be happy sleeping literally anywhere. In fact, he slept on the trampolines for a couple of nights. Anyway, some of the feedback that Lisa, Chris's partner, gave was that access to that bed is actually a little bit fraught, and you kind of, and I do see that it's a little bit awkward stepping up to that bed. It's very high. And there's not like, it takes a little bit of thinking about. And if you weren't particularly mobile, if you had bad knees, then getting up and down that bed might be a little bit of a challenge. That's nothing that, we've had to do with because we don't sleep there. But yeah, that's just the only other kind of design thing that maybe doesn't work so well in real life.
Well, hang on a minute. I'm gonna push back a little bit here, and I'm gonna raise 2 points. Firstly, both the master hull, the master cabin bed, and the other bed are over the bridge deck. They both handle, and the bridge deck clearance is high on this boat to stop slamming, and just the design of it. You can't bring the bed down any lower. It can't. It literally is. So you can't drop the bed anyway. That's the first point. And the second point is, and I kind of really think that this is something that after, and feel free to disagree with me fully on this. Right?
I will feel free.
This boat is not a beginner's boat. It is not. It is not a little cruiser. It is not something where you put a bit of sail up and go for a little poodle. It is. It's a powerful. It's got a powerful rig on it. She points high, and as such, this is not a boat for people that have dodgy knees. It's not. You have to be physically fit to run this boat. I'm carrying a bit of extra weight from all the beer. But I'm just.
I do think you're quite slim these days.
Well, now that I've been working this effing boat for the last 8 months, I've lost a bit. But the point about it is that if you can't get up into the bed, then you really are going to struggle to do other aspects of the boat that you are going to need to do.
Yeah, that was just. I was just kind of scratching my head thinking of examples that.
I mean, to me, it's not a problem. I'm not being. Discriminating against people that have got bad knees. Of course I'm not. I think everyone has health problems, but bad knees would stop you from getting up. What I would say to you is that we have 7 berths, of which there is the aft cabin, which does have much easier and lower access. But I kind of would say to you that in comparison between Ruby Rose and Ruby Rose 2, this boat, even with all its kind of like electronics and power winches, needs more. You've got to be more physically active to run the boat.
Agreed.
Like 100%.
Rob says that he's going to bed and he loves the moustache.
The tash. This is no tash.
Yeah, this is just.
Oh, Rob said just. I didn't even see that. Sorry, Rob. I've got to the age now.
No, he's just.
No, I understand he's here, but Rob and Yoka are like, it's 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah, I know.
For them,
yeah.
Thank you for staying up.
Well, actually, do you want to?
Oh, yes, just Rob. Before you
Rob, before you go, we have something to tell everyone.
Go on, Terysa. I would.
Okay. So Nick and I have been working for the last 6 months or so.
Yeah,
it's been quite a long
on a
time,
secret project.
On a secret project. And we've been working really hard, and we will be continuing to work really hard. And that secret project is that we are writing a book on essentially how to boat life, how to move from living on land to living on a boat. And it's going to be a very comprehensive kind of how-to book. So it's going to be called the Boat Life Manual. But it's also going to weave in a lot of our experience and anecdotes and stories from our, how many years have we been at this for? Like
10, almost 9.
We
left in 2015, love. It's 2024.
Yeah, exactly. 9 years of doing this. We're also going to be bringing in other people's experiences. So friends that we've met along the way who've had a different kind of path to us and different experiences to us. We're going to bring in some of their stories. So it's going to be very comprehensive, very personal, but very instructional. Probably a little bit like our YouTube channel. Like it's going to have a lot of information, but also a lot of personality and a lot of stories. So we're so excited about it. This is not something that we're doing. We're not self-publishing. We actually have a publishing deal with a publishing house. So yeah, we're working with a team, and we can't quite believe that we've got the opportunity to write a book.
We've been writing this book for it's about 6 months now. So it's just one of those things that, you know, we got talking to a publishing house, and it was just the book we hope to have published by the end of the year.
So hopefully in time for Christmas.
So that's it. So basically we're not just sat around, you know, we are actually writing a book. And
so we're really excited, and we've been having meetings with our publisher, and we've got a bit of a timeline that we're trying to stick to. So needless to say that shipping Ruby Rose 2 is coming at a really good time, because we need to try and get the first draft finished by the beginning of June. That is like one of our deadlines. So we're going to be working hard on that. So a lot of you have been saying, well, what are you going to do? Like, we've had this question a lot, like, what are you guys going to do once, you know, Ruby Rose 2 is being shipped? You're going to have 7 weeks and just like twiddling your thumbs. No, we are buckling down, and we are writing this book, and it's as maybe some of you have written a book before, it is an insane amount of work. So we're excited, but it's a lot, and we just can't wait to get on with it.
We've done a lot. I mean, I would say it's 2/3 of the way written already. We've got about 60,000 words down. So so look, that's our side project, you know. And the other thing is, I've got like a whole 6 weeks of work or 5 weeks of work in Vietnam with the kids. So I've got a couple of 100 kids to see next weekend. And then every weekend subsequently, I'll be working with the children, and then we'll be flying to Turkey to pick the boat up there. So that's what's going on there.
Yeah.
What other questions, Terysa?
Okay. So Darren says, can I get a signed copy? We're going to have to do something special for our patrons regarding the book. We'll have a little think about that.
Yeah, we definitely will.
Anyway, I hope. Robert's still here. I hope that you guys are pumped about that. We're really excited.
Yeah, we are. It's been something we wanted to do. So So, any other questions?
Yeah, let us know if you've got any other questions. So in the meantime, let's give a little real-time update. So we are in Phuket again. We got back yesterday. We're in our Pro Marina. And we are shipping this boat next weekend. So it's, you know, coming up now. Which part of Turkey? We're shipping to Marmaris, which is meant to be lovely. So that's really convenient. And we're just going to be essentially getting the boat ready to ship over the next week. And we, unfortunately, because the shipping date got pushed back by a couple of weeks, it clashed with Nick's commitments in Vietnam. So he already had committed to going out and treating some patients at an orphanage, like, you know, 3 hours away from Vietnam. It's not the type of thing that he can cancel in all good conscience. So he is going to go back and fulfill those obligations, and I will stay here, and we will have a skipper take Ruby Rose 2 to the ship. It's only going to be an hour away. And so unfortunately Nick won't be here for that big moment.
That's okay. Honestly,
I'll be filming.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's all going to be happening over the next few days. We're going to get the boat ready to ship, and we have a lot of work to do on her to make sure that she's all ready to go. And obviously this is something that we've never done before, so we're kind of, you know, like this is a new experience for us. And yeah, so that's what we're up to. And then, as we've said, you know, by next weekend, hopefully this boat will be on a ship. We'll keep you guys updated in real time, and then we're going to be going and spending time writing our book.
That's exactly it. So the next 6 or 7 weeks is going to be just frantic. We've got to get this book finished.
Yeah.
I've got children to fix, and then so that's it. So and then we will, but obviously we're going to be doing a Patreon event.
Yes.
So this is very important.
Yeah.
We don't know when or what it's going to be, but now that we're in the Med, we promised you we would do something. It's either it'll probably be, because of the timing and the delays with the shipping, it will probably be kind of like towards the end of the season. But yes, we will be doing a Patreon event somewhere in the Med.
Yeah.
We will give you ample warning.
Yeah. As soon as the boat is being shipped, then we will be able to kind of firm up some various obligations that we have, and we'll be able to sort out a Patreon event. But that is happening this year for sure.
Yep.
As Nick said, probably towards the end of the sailing season, so there's not going to be any major rush.
Yep.
And there's some questions about where we're going to be sailing in the Med. I mean, you know, we try not to make too firm plans, but we essentially going to spend most of our time in Turkey and Greece. We don't want to go further afield than that because, you know...
Well, we don't know. I think that there's a lot to be said. I think vague plans are good. I think one thing I would say is that in doing this 1,500 miles between Pattaya and here, it was a rush, and we didn't get to experience, you know, spending kind of like, you know, you sail all day, you get to bed at, you drop anchor at 5 p.m. and then at 7 a.m. the next morning you're off again. And you do that for like 2 or 3 weeks. It's hard. It's hard on the boat, and it's hard on us. And I think slowing down and actually just enjoying essentially some of the finest sailing grounds in the world, the Greek islands, the Turkish islands, North Africa, all these parts that, you know, it's a lot to do with, you know, what the weather's doing, where the wind blows, and more importantly, what we want to do, exactly what we want to do. I want to be able to get into an anchorage and go, this is nice, we're staying for a few days, and doing that. So, so the vague plan, the plan for this season or for the rest of the season is the Southern Mediterranean. And that's as much as we're going to say. Southern Med. It's not going to be further than the Southern Med because that's the season after.
Yeah. And Stephen says, will the mast be stepped for shipping? No, it's a mast up.
No, it's mast up shipping
situation.
So the boat goes on a cradle and just gets lifted on, lifted off. That's where it is with us.
So Darren's made a comment that I think a lot of people have made before about whether they can. Is there anything that people can do to help or donate to the children in Vietnam that need some dental work? Is that something that...
Honestly, you're already doing it. This is the whole point. Like, everyone's like, oh, what do you spend? What does our Patreon money go to? Well, it's not cocaine and hookers. It pays for me to fly to Vietnam and work for free. That's what it does. So thank you already. This is exactly where your Patreon contributions go. You know, apart from, you know, it doesn't even really. This is what it helps with. So there's nothing that you can do to help. The point is that it's volunteering in Vietnam it's kind of a concept I don't really understand. It's kind of like,
it's not like there's an organization that you can donate to. It's all done like very ad hoc by just individuals.
There's Medicine Sans Frontières that do some work. There's a Cleft Part. There are some. There's Smiles for Children, whatever it's called. There's a lot of different organizations, but there are layers of bureaucracy that are just almost impossible to get through, and a few other issues. So there's not as if you can just donate and, you know,
the money will go to the children.
Essentially, my boss, the guy I work for and with in Vietnam, he's happy to provide nurses, to provide transport, to provide equipment and materials. He's a really, really lovely guy. And he just doesn't have a surgeon. And so it's just a match of like, well, you know, I'll work for free for you. And he's like, great, you work for free, and, you know, we'll see what we can do. Generally, my overall statement on this whole thing with doing surgery for kids in Vietnam, I could work there like 7 days a week for the rest of my life and never even make a dent on this problem. It's so huge. Children, unfortunately, are abandoned by their parents if they're born disabled, and the disability, the kind of birth defects are still crazy high because of the war and the Agent Orange in the ground. So there are still these crazy amounts of disabled kids that end up in Catholic and Buddhist orphanages, and they're abandoned. So that's it. There's no social care. There's no facility to look after them. And all the best I can come up with is I can hopefully try to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. So yeah, it's a joy for me to be able to go and just make some difference. You know, I've got a skill set that I actually still enjoy using, believe it or not. So yeah, but thank you, Darren. I appreciate the sentiment, but your contributions to Patreon are already helping. That's it.
All right, guys, we've been going for almost an hour. So any final questions, let us know. And I think we've made our announcements. We've caught you up on everything that we need to catch you up on. But yeah, any final questions or comments or whatever, let us know. Now that most of the teething problems have been dealt with, would you ever be hull number 2 of a new design again?
That's a really good question. Yes, but not if I didn't have this level of influence over what would be modified. I think that would be if I went to another manufacturer and they're like, "Oh, you're hull 2," and I'm like, "Well, what happens if we don't like it?" They're like, "I do not know. I don't care." So I think that I kind of think that what I would say about Seawind is that I don't want to use the word guinea pig, but all parties, so this is us and them, were aware that when we took this boat, we would be essentially testing a lot of the systems that they put on and a lot of the designs to see exactly what worked and what didn't work. And we knew this. We're not kind of naive about this. However, the flip side to that is that Seawind at every point had turned around and said, "Okay, we are going to modify this and we'll fix this on your boat." And what I would say is, it's not like we just suddenly received the boat and are like, "Ta-da, here's your boat, off you go." Like we were in that bloody factory for 2 years. So there's a lot of things that we did pick up on even beforehand and went, "Okay, well, that needs to change. I don't like that. How does that work?" So I think we mocked up a lot of the things
that could be easily seen.
Seen before we took delivery of the boat. I think after the test sail of Hull 1, Richard Ward went on board and picked up a lot of things which were beyond my pay grade to kind of ask to be modified. I mean, he's the CEO, and if he's like, "This bed is too small," then I couldn't say that. I wouldn't have even picked up on it, actually. But since we've had the boat, the mods we've had to do are actually really, really small. I think the biggest one I can think of was the mainsail, and that was just one of these random things where the netting was too harsh for the sail. So yeah, I would be involved with Hull 2, but only if I knew that the feedback that I gave the company would result in them actually taking retroactive action to fix the problems. And I would say that Seawind have been very, very open to fixing the problems. I don't think at any point they've said, no. I think maybe at some point I've said, "I don't like this." They're like, "Well, tough." And I'm like, "No, I don't like it." And they're like, "Okay, well, let's look at it again." So they haven't been like accepting of everything I've said the first pass, but where I've said, "Look, actually, I'm not just being a dick on this. This actually doesn't work." They've been very good with it.
John says, "Happy with the Sea Zone."
Yeah, the Sea Zone it's kind of the front end of Sea Zone is technologically really advanced. So you look at Sea Zone and you're like, "Okay, I can do all this with it." The back end of it is shite. And it annoys me sensely. It really does wind me up, right? That you've got this beautiful little Sea Zone unit that allows you to control every facet of the boat. But you try customizing that, and you need to essentially find a time machine to go back 10 years. You need to find a PC, download some really clunky software, and then plug the C zone into the computer and then start writing things back and forth. Now, for the problem with C zone is that it will only run through a PC, and we don't have a PC. Everything in our environment is Apple, and that's fine. And as someone said, well, just put Boot Camp onto your Mac, which I've done. Doesn't work. So basically, you need a dedicated PC. And the reason it doesn't work, and I'll tell you this because I tried it for days, is that with Boot Camp, or with running Windows on an Apple, it won't install the drivers. For some reason, it won't install the drivers to talk to C zone. So we had to go and buy a PC. Actually, Phil Copeland came on board the other day and with his PC. So he plugged it in to try and have a look, and it does connect with his PC, but then there's a lot of errors which have, like, I don't really understand it. So the thing about it is that C zone, once it's set up, is great, but it's not set up. It's set up by the factory and it needs to be customized by us. But firstly, there's a hardware problem. And secondly, the interface is really, really clunky and complicated from what I can see. I'm pretty
Nick's like no slouch when it comes to.
So I know what I'm doing with computers, but I'm looking at it and thinking, this is just, it's nuts. Like, how can you make an interface so clunky? I think that's, and I don't see why they can't just make the functionality slightly easier. Like, put it this way. C zone exists, and C zone exists. You can connect wirelessly to C zone using an iPad. Why can't you just customize? Why can't you just use the software and write files to the C zone using the Wi-Fi? Why can't you do that? Why can you not do that? And people are like, well, what if the Wi-Fi is weak? What if you brick your system? Actually, it's pretty straightforward. You literally don't, until the new configuration is uploaded or by Wi-Fi, you don't overwrite it. It's pretty simple. But the fact that you still have to have a PC attached with, and this is the other thing that drives me nuts, a USB 2 to USB 2 cable, the old square ones that you never get the right way up. I'm like, why? And that part, actually, because I looked on the C zone website, it's a $600 interface just to be able to plug your PC into your C zone. And it's two. And I'm going to kind of go on a little bit of a rant now because the coffee's kicking in a little bit. So the C zone frustrates me because it is so user unfriendly when you try to do anything yourself. And it does need customizing. And actually what Phil Copeland, who is very good with these electronics, told me is that there's a lot of aspects of the setup of the boat that you have to use a computer for that just aren't available on the actual menus inside C zone. Example, and I never knew this until he told me, all the LED lights in here, obviously there's lights in the ceiling, but there's a lot of LED lights under the cabinetry. They can all be dimmed and set. The brightness can be set if you go into the menus using a PC. You can't do that but we're using the C zone. So I find the C zone interface to be clunky. And one thing that I do find I want to kind of reflect on, because you're having a lot of questions about this, is the water maker and what is going on with that. The big question is about this this priming pump and the failure of the priming pump and why it failed. And I've documented it, we've documented it pretty well as to what happened with the priming pump. Now, apparently, Spectra are sending a whole new unit out so we can replace it all. And whether they do or whether they don't, that to me, it's good that they're sending one out. But the repair that Phil Harper did is good. It's a good repair. I have and still do question why they used such a poor quality fitting on that elbow joint that comes out the top of the strainer. And the reason I don't understand it is because subsequently, since we were talking about this, we have had a lot of people send us photos or pictures of their own pumps, and they don't have that fitting. So if you see what Spectra will send you, you can see in the mock-up of not the pictures that they send of the whole unit, it has that same plastic elbow joint. But yeah, I've seen ones where they've got like really nice metal nuts and bolts on them, so they don't corrode. So I kind of think that the point about the Spectra unit is, as with everything on these boats, it's a very, very small thing that goes wrong that then creates a bigger problem, that creates a bigger problem, that becomes a bigger problem. The best thing that we can come up with our water maker at the moment is that, and it is working now, by the way, that joint snapped, that joint snapped somewhere while the water maker was being assembled by Spectra. And I'm happy to them to say, actually, no, this wasn't us. This is my speculation, that someone decided to not go and get another elbow joint, but simply to try and glue back the broken elbow joint. And then try to tighten it up. It's very difficult to try and articulate how this works, but I'm going to. The strainer is about the size of a jam jar. And through the top of the strainer, there is this elbow joint. But that elbow joint has to then fit through a flange. And that flange is the housing that actually bolts it to the bulkhead. And it's just badly designed. So the elbow joint fitting has to then push up and go through another opening to then be secured. And the problem is that the second opening, the actual flange that comes out, the opening is so small that you can't get any purchase. So you can only use a certain size nut to tighten it all. And my take on this is as follows, that elbow joint was leaking, and because it couldn't be tightened properly. And that caused the knock-on effect from that is twofold. Firstly, we were getting water into the bilge, but secondly, we were introducing air into the system. Now, what makes me believe that is that after this priming pump, the next part is the filters. There's the 20 micron filter and the 5 micron filter. And we could never bleed air out of that system. Before that, we would always just have air bubbles going through it. And I could never work out where these air bubbles were coming from. And I was kind of like, I don't know what's going on here. Since Phil Harper fixed it all, we don't have that air coming through the system. So we can say with a degree of certainty that before Iron Phil Harper changed out that elbow joint, there was air getting into the system because I could see it, and now there isn't. Now that air getting into the system caused essentially the pump failed eventually. There's a ceramic bearing that failed and had to be replaced. Now, that's what caused the problem. And I think that the knock-on from that then meant that we just were pushing so much air into the system. And because air is inherently compressible, when you are trying to then pressurize the Clark pump, it's not working because you're just compressing air. And it eventually got fixed. But I kind of believe that actually it was this pre-filter, this housing that caused the issue. So that's where we are with this. It is fixed now. If you do have a Spectra water maker on your boat, doesn't matter what it is, just check that fitting, because ours was broken. And so it was broken and glued back together. However, the side of the fitting that was immersed in salt water was very, very badly corroded. It was pink and everything had leached out. And by just touching it, it was so brittle that it was just falling apart. So that in itself would lend itself to failure at some point. And that failure, I literally went to hardware stores all around Pattaya and just couldn't find the parts to fix it. Eventually, Phil found the parts, found better parts. But if that had happened like mid-Indian Ocean or mid-ocean passage, I don't have the wherewithal on this boat to fix it, and I've got like epoxy gaskets. I've got a lot of things. It's just a very, very difficult thing to fix. So if you do have a Spectra water maker, go and look at that primer, that pump housing, and make sure that take the strainer off and make sure it's not going pink, because if it's going pink, it's going to fail or may fail. Anyway, I think that's about it. Finish on the water maker. So listen, is there something Randy said? What is Randy? I can't read that.
Randy is just talking about how he's been happy having a small PC on board.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we do need. I think that anyone with C-Zone needs to get hold of a PC, and then
I don't think Randy does have C-Zone.
Okay, fine.
Anyway, all right, guys. I think that we're all finished up for this morning. Brian says we decided to go with something other than a Spectra, probably a Schenker.
Schenker, yeah. Look,
learning from your pain has been valuable. Yeah.
Look, I kind of think that the Spectra thing. I kind of,
I think we've
covered it.
We've covered it.
Yeah, would I get a Spectra again? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it might have just been our bad luck. It might have just.
To tell you the truth, I'm going to say one final thing. And Phil Harper has dealt with all this. I am not sure that Spectra are easy to deal with as a company. I kind of think that actually one kind of thing that you should be aware of when you're dealing with anyone, either in marine industry or otherwise, is how much pushback you get when you come to them with a problem. If a company is like, oh, it's not our fault, you've done this wrong, or we can't, if they literally are sticking to the letter of the law when it comes to warranty, like, well, you didn't do this, or you didn't do this, or we believe it's you. That to me is, I find that to be problematic. And anecdotally, and this is not first-hand information, I've heard it from other people and from people trying to fix our water maker, Spectra push back quite hard on, this is the problem, this is not our problem. And actually, 99% of boat owners that have got a water maker of this value are pretty diligent in the way that they treat the water maker. They understand the value of the financial value and also the technical value in that. And so for a company to be like, well, actually, we can't honor this because that's not good customer service. I think sometimes you've got to take a hit, even if there is a question as to whether or not things are being done correctly, and not create problems. Because actually the stress is not about the problem not working, or the equipment not working. It is to do with how the problem gets resolved. And I'm going to give you 2 examples. I'm not going to say any more about Spectra because it's just anecdotal. Regarding our ice machine packed up. Now, I believe with a high degree of certainty that the issue with our ice machine was to do with contamination of our water supply, which caused gel coat or non-compressible or inorganic parts to get inside the water maker and block the solenoid.
Inside the ice machine.
The ice machine. Now, that doesn't happen with the water maker, by the way, because it's salt water. But the point about it is that Vitifrigo were on it like yesterday. They shipped all these new components out for us in 3 days of shipping. And they sent us parts they didn't even think we needed. Phil Harper said to them, look, they've got a problem with this. It won't make ice. It won't do this. And they're like, okay, we'll send you this. We might as well send you a new circuit board and all this. And they got it working again. So it's kind of like we had 2 problems, one with a broken water maker, one with a broken ice machine. And it's the customer service that we got from Vitifrigo, which actually was impressive. That they're like, okay, let's just get this done. Let's just get this thing fixed. And I actually found that to be very reassuring, that while I cannot control whether a product is going to fail or not, I know that I have customer support and no equivocating over, oh, well, you probably did this wrong, or you probably did that wrong. They're like, no, we're just going to do it. And you know what? So that gives me far greater faith in Vitifrigo as a company, because they just go, yeah, we're going to deal with this. And actually, that is a lesson to learn. They are an example of how customer service should work in the marine industry. Not turn around and go, oh, yeah, well, did you do this? Could this have been you? Because actually, stress compounds. And if you are in a situation where you don't have a working product and you are remote, and you then have someone at the end of a phone or an email going, oh, well, this could have been you, and oh, we can't honor that warranty. It has a far greater effect on your kind of like stress levels. So props to Seawind and props to Vitifrigo for turning around and saying, you know what, we understand that this is a problem. Let's just fix it, and we'll sort the issues out afterwards with actually who's responsible. And either way, we'll pick up. We'll cover this. In the case of, so yeah, I kind of that is an important. It's very, very important customer service, and I really would say to you that if you are specifying a boat or buying a boat that's used, go to the owners' websites and find out where the issues lie. Now, I know people can turn around and say, okay, well, because of what you do on the internet, it is kind of like, they give you better treatment. I actually don't think they do. I kind of think that we have been treated sometimes badly by companies, irrespective of who we are. And sometimes we've been treated very, very well by companies, irrespective of who we are, because they have a long history of just dealing with customer problems by going, let's just get this fixed. And so, yeah, we're very, very happy with. So I think I'm not going to dwell on negatives, but I will say on the example of Vitifrigo. And also, we had a problem with Highfield, our Highfield steering wheel. It was all random things, like the powder coating on the steering wheel came off, and Highfield were like, Highfield China, not a dealer. They just like, yeah, we'll just send you a new steering wheel. And so it's the customer service that really, 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 really matters more than it does on land if you have a problem. So I'm happy to champion companies that have gone above and beyond what I would expect. Yeah. Okay. There you go.
All right. So I think we're going to wrap up now, guys. So I hope that you have all enjoyed this live chat. It's been a very long time since we did a live chat with you. And also, by the way, we're constantly reassessing the best way of doing things. So the last couple of lives have been through Discord. And the reason why we jumped to Discord was because the YouTube interface was really clunky and it was hard to kind of set up an unlisted. It wasn't hard, but it was awkward to set up an unlisted live feed and then kind of go through this whole like separate program to deal with the like audio and the camera, whatever. Anyway, YouTube Studio have really simplified that entire situation, so we can very easily now. I don't know why this wasn't done earlier. Do live chats through YouTube via an unlisted link like we have today. So yeah, have a think about whether you prefer the Discord platform or YouTube. I tend to think YouTube because, well, if nothing else, I can save the live feed and then you can watch it afterwards, which you can't do with Discord. So yeah, have a little think about whether you prefer this YouTube or Discord for your lives. And yeah, we'll be doing more later in the year once we're in Europe. And that will obviously suit our European patrons better. So
yeah, sorry, Robin,
yeah.
Yoka and everyone else, but yeah, thank you for staying up.
Okay,
all right,
guys.
Happy Sunday.
Yeah. All right. Happy Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your day or enjoy your night or enjoy your sleep, wherever you are. Bye.